Yeah, so I had an interesting interaction with Patriotic Alliance. Unfortunately, their leader, Gayton McKenzie, couldn't attend, but they sent one of their younger leaders to come and talk to me. So, yeah, I read through the manifestos, about 36 pages. It's actually a good manifesto. It makes for interesting reading. But as these things go, the key is implementation. And some of these things are quite idealistic. However, like the practicality around the 100-day plan, the things they would implement should they become the premier of the Western Cape or run the Western Cape. So around things like policing, education, healthcare, and so on. So it's quite practical, quite interesting. Um, so an Achilles heel for them would be that they don't really have experience of being in government besides being in local government. But the 5 issues that I think I want to focus on, the one is the Palestinian question. It's quite clear that how their leader Mackenzie and Kenny Kunene feel about Palestine and Israel. They're fully supportive of Israel, saying that South Africa should focus on issues in South Africa. But the rest of the PA leadership actually feel that Israel is committing genocide over there, and they strongly feel around a two-state solution. So that is an issue, both in terms of the voters, and I think it could impact on the party. But as you know, Mackenzie is a strong person. He run that party with the iron fist. Then on foreigners, quite interestingly, they're saying that on the one hand, South Africa should learn from foreigners. And they should, on the other hand, we should teach our African brothers and sisters. But they're quite clear. The day after the elections, foreigners will be deported. They must go back home. But when I push back on that around our constitution and the rule of law, etc., they folded. So that is just hot air. The issue around the foreign deporting foreigners. They got quite interesting ideas around. The third thing is that they got quite interesting ideas about dealing with unemployment and supporting small business and the need for a capable state and employing competent people. They're quite clear that competent people need to be employed because they don't have all the answers. Then they've got strong suggestions around how to deal with crime. Obviously because of Mackenzie's knowledge of that area. So they got strong suggestions. And they're quite clear that one needs to deal with the root causes and the socioeconomic issues that drive crime, which is interesting. They firm around the need for the death penalty. They say if you kill, then you must be killed. So that could be an Achilles heel, and it also could be good for them when it comes to some of their base voters. Then the final thing I think is that's a huge uncomfortableness is the issue of influence of outside forces. Although they say that Mackenzie and Kunene is funding the party predominantly, and that must run into millions, but there's also this thing about the influence of people like Rob Hersoff and other funders with people say Zionist connections, who are funding them or assisting them in one way or the other. It's very interesting. It was also revealed that both Mackenzie and Hersoff has got mining and aviation interests, businesses in that regard, and we know that Rob Hersoff comes from a mining background, big, and he's also got interest in aviation. So that's a big thing. And then the issue around Mackenzie flying around in this private jet, and whether that jet belongs to Rob Hersoff or whoever else. And then linked to that is the fact that Mackenzie is both the presidential candidate and the candidate from the premier candidate of the Western Cape. And when I push around that, around whether a miracle happens and Mackenzie becomes the president, or must go to national parliament, who will then become the premier if they need to have a premier candidate. Then they mention a guy called Ashley Sauls, who's from Joburg. He's also known as Wambizo, and he's actually a comedian. His history is he's been a comedian. So, yeah, people of the Western Cape need to determine whether they actually want to be want a comedian to be their premier. So, so that's the Patriotic Alliance. Up to you to decide who you're going to vote for. I think he knew the price of a tin of jam, fortunately for him. But yeah, is it all stunts? Is it all bluster? They're going to be a kingmaker. Is the fact that they're pulling the crowds to some of their rallies. Mackenzie's got a huge number of followers on social media. Will that translate into votes? So some food for thought for you when it comes to the 29th of May.